On January 1st, Illinois legalized the sale of recreational marijuana. Shops can't keep up with demand and some have had to close while they replenish their supply. And in Michigan, it's only been legal a few weeks and the story there is the same. Sales are already well into the millions of dollars. As the tides shift and more states allow the drug, advocates are hoping Indiana lawmakers will get on board. Brock Turner brings us the first of two reports on marijuana legalization and the pressure Indiana is facing to change its stance on cannabis.
For the legalization of marijuana.
As lawmakers arrived Monday for the first day of the 2020 legislative session, about 50 people holding signs, smoking joints, and chanting greeted them on the steps of the Indiana State House.
We've got advocates all over the state who have stepped up at this point, and they are ready for action. They are going to take action in their communities. They're going to visit their town councils. They're going to visit their county councils, and they're going to deliver a united message that this needs to be taken care of in the state of Indiana.
Despite the recent changes in neighboring Illinois and Michigan, Hoosier lawmakers aren't keen on putting legalized marijuana up for a vote. For years, Senator Karen Talion has authored bills that would loosen Indiana's marijuana restrictions, but they've never gained any traction.
In 2018, there were 22,000 arrests in Indiana for marijuana possession. It's the second most arrested crime in the state of Indiana, and it needs to stop.
Talion joined the State House protesters to call on Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb to advance the conversation. Holcomb admitted last year that he smoked marijuana in college, but says he has no plans to support a recreational or medical cannabis program just yet.
No, other states don't persuade me.
Have you ever used marijuana?
Yes.
Even though it's illegal?
Yes.
When did you use it?
College.
That comes despite growing support from constituents. The latest polling data from Gallup shows a 25% increase in the support of legalization here in the Midwest over the last decade. Pressure from those in the governor's own party is growing as well.
When I first started this conversation years ago, it was stigma and ignorance were the two biggest obstacles. But now stigma is something that's almost gone because 33 states have a medical cannabis program. I believe there are 11 now with recreational, 2 border states for Indiana.
Lucas is a Republican and one of the loudest voices in the GOP calling on legislators to develop a cannabis program. He believes neighboring states coming on board creates pressure for Indiana. He says the state's slow action has hurt Indiana when it comes to hemp production, and he doesn't want history to repeat itself.
This is something we're going to be forced to deal with, but again, now it makes no sense to not be having this conversation because the facts, the research, everything is out there. All somebody has to do is just, educate themselves.
Holcomb, however, says he won't be influenced by what other states do. That's also true of an influential organization in Hoosier politics. The Indiana Prosecuting Attorneys Council says the public shouldn't expect prosecutors to change how they charge individuals, regardless of where or how they purchase marijuana.
It's still going to be illegal in Indiana, and that's what we're kind of trying to stress to people in Indiana who think, okay, maybe I can go across the border and buy it and bring it back. It's still going to be illegal in Indiana. It's still going to be charged by the prosecutors here in Indiana. And again, until something changes in Indiana, that's not going to affect our stance what other states are doing.
Holcomb and other GOP leaders have said they're not interested in exploring legalization in Indiana until the federal government declassifies marijuana as a controlled substance. Federally, cannabis is considered a Schedule I drug without medical benefits. Lucas disagrees with that line of thinking. He says citing federal scheduling is an excuse and that policymakers should more closely reflect the views of their constituents.
Leaders need to lead, and this is something I'd like to see our leadership get out in front of and just stay out of the way. Let the process happen. Let us have that conversation. Let the committee hearings take place. Let's get all parties, the pros and the cons, at the table and let the people hear, what is possible for the state of Indiana that 33 other states are doing.
And that's where Lucas puts the blame on Holcomb.
I blame Governor Holcomb. I'll come out and say it. And again, I can't say enough great things about Governor Holcomb, but he being the governor of our state, being so far out in front of this and against it, it really puts up a wall. A lot of people, shy away from this issue.
Governor Holcomb's office says his stance on marijuana legalization has not changed, and his office declined to comment on the assertion from those in favor of legalization that he's limiting the conversation. For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Brock Turner.
Next week, we'll look at how legal cannabis is sold in Illinois and hear from a Hoosier veteran who is currently using marijuana instead of opioids.